You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network. New shows every day. Find us at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Football's right around the corner. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And with the NFL returning, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when you bet $1 or more on any football game. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 or more on any Week 1 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not yet available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. And for 1 week, DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at $1 million top prize. Nothing adds to the excitement of watching a game quite like having a free shot at $1 million top prize, right? So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. And get a free shot at $1 million top prize with your first deposit. That's promo code THPN for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only, new customers only. Minimum of $5 deposit, $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problems, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 77, season 2 of Red Wings Rant, where tirades and impassioned pleas about your Detroit Red Wings finally have a home. Today we're going to be doing, as Mike just said, best way to describe this, a long episode. We're going to count down the top 10 Red Wing prospects you should know, including a pretty long list of honorable mentions. But basically, this is complicated because as we saw today, we had Corey Pronman put out his rankings. I guess now he's up to number 9, which would be the Red Wing spot, but his rankings across the NHL for the incoming talent pool. So like the prospects, and what he gave was like a ranking of each player, and I would base that or his ranking on the idea of how high their ceiling is, like how good can this prospect be. Just quick example is Seider, he said, is like elite talent. Lucas Raymond is first line guy, kind of stuff like that. So today what we're talking about are the 10 Red Wings prospects that are going to be making the biggest difference this upcoming season. So I'm talking about guys that have their ELC signed. We're talking about guys that are going to be debuting in the NHL, guys that could on the maybe a good training camp be starting for the Detroit Red Wings, or we could see them by the end of the season. And there's a good chunk of these guys are just going to be playing for the Grand Rapids Griffins this year. And some of the honorable mentions are some of the guys that could actually get that contract signed by the end of the season, and they could see themselves in Grand Rapids. So there's a lot of different things going on here, but just had to get that out of the way because this is not necessarily a ranking, even though that is sort of figured into the thought process. This isn't just a ranking of who's the best prospect we have. It's a ranking of who's going to make that biggest difference this season. So you could maybe make an argument, Mike, that Sebastian Cossa is going to make a huge difference where he's playing this year. But Mike, he did not make our list. He didn't make our top 10 list. He didn't make the honorable mentions list because he just doesn't fit with what this list is all about. So I'm talking about these guys that have our contracts with the Detroit Red Wings organization. And I think everybody will start to get the gist once we jump in. Mike, how are things going over there for you? Looks like you got a cat walking across your keyboard.
Yep, we got a cat. He's real excited to be here. Friend of the show.
Hey, Brennis.
Brennis, how you doing? How you doing? Performance art. Hola. What a wonderful thumbnail that is.
Oh, ESPN has this ranked as the most improved team in the Atlantic.
Wow. All it took was buying out Franz Nielsen. That's all it took.
Hey, you get rid of those negative numbers.
Quite an upgrade there in the old win column, huh?
Good to see everybody already. So, Mike, if you're ready to jump in, I know your eyes kind of blew up there at the end when I mentioned that Sebastian Cossa is not a part of this ranking. with how
I think
particular they are.
because I just want to talk about him all the time. There's nothing I like more than when a team has a second first-round pick. But like you said, the criteria here is who's going to actually have a chance at making the roster this year. And if Kosa makes it, Matt, this would be waters I don't think anyone outside of Ahab has ever traversed. So I don't foresee that either. I'm just sad because I like any excuse to talk about Sebastian, or Bash, as we're going to call
him. This is Brennis with the poor Franz performance art. Wish we had bought out Franz 2 years ago. It makes a difference. And I'll throw in there too, like for some, I think I threw this in the YouTube description. For some of these guys, like it's going to be post trade deadline. It's going to be injuries have stacked up, but we're talking about guys that could do well in Grand Rapids too. So there's a lot of things mixed in here, but basically if you're going to make a difference, it's going to happen in the mitten. I like putting it that way. But yeah, basically a couple of guys here too that, I would say haven't gotten their shot yet or pretty close. Maybe did pretty well in their debut to professional hockey. Of course, making the leap either from the collegiate side, the junior side. I think some people already know where we're starting with this stuff. But the fun thing here is that, here we go. This is how we kind of want to start. This will be our tease because I was about to lead into the names and how we want to break this down. Is we're actually going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I'm pretty sure a lot of people could guess who the top 5 Red Wings prospects are. They could do it off the back of their hand. And here's a little tease if you guys are watching on YouTube. Just a couple of guys that are driving. They were driving on 94 earlier today. I tweeted about it. Lucas Raymond and Jonatan Berggren driving together. So they are going to make my top 5 here. So that's how we want to break this down, is go 1 to 5. We'll throw in some honorable mentions and then we'll go 6 through 10. And Mike, you mentioned this could be a long episode. I think this could be a short one too. I'll say that's where my head's at right now, is that this could actually be pretty short because we're breaking down these guys and a lot of, like we already know who they are kind of thing. So there isn't much to say besides like, how are they going to break through? How are they going to actually make it to the team? Or do they already have a spot locked up? So Mike, if you're ready, we can jump in.
I think I know who number 1's going to be, Matt.
Should I do it all dramatically, or do you want to make your guess? Because we could do that for the full list if you haven't taken a look at it yet.
Matt, in a swerve hitherto undreamt of, not since CM Punk's debut at AEW, Matt, at number 1, I bet you have Sebastian Kosa.
No, all right, I was all ready to hit.
You swerved me, huh? I thought you were going to swerve me. All right, is it probably Mo Seider? Oh, of course it's Mo Seider.
Yeah, the 6'3", 209-pound right shot defenseman. I mean, there's so many different ways to break this down. Our boy Scott Wheeler, who was friend of the show, he actually broke him down pretty similarly to Brondon. But when he gets the puck at the offensive zone blue line, he's looking to make things happen. And I like to mention, too, this is very particular in the detail of his offensive side of the game, is that he's a fan of the give and go play. And he'll activate on his own, and he'll also go in alone. So those 3 particulars are what help him stand out on the offensive side. But it's Corey Prodman who released his rankings today for all these boys. What he said was that you actually aren't going to, or you shouldn't expect elite level offense from Ward Seider, but he's going to be an elite level defenseman because of the elite level defensive side he'll bring. So it'll be a high level of offense, elite level defensive side, and it's just going to be one of those top 2-way defensemen. He'll be one of the top 2-way defensemen in the league. And it's just exciting all around. I mean, Mike, when we were putting together our rosters, I figured him into some power play opportunities this year. And a lot of people have pegged him when you start the Calder conversation. A lot of people are already throwing in more Seider. So I think we can be.
Some of us already thrown him in the Norris discussion. It's been one hot season overseas, and we're ready to anoint this guy. Bring him in. So Matt, I think a lot of these guys were just trying to figure out, all right, we got to get 3 or 4 boo-boos, and maybe they have a hot week in camp, and maybe they're lighting it up for Grand Rapids. But Seider, my God, Matt, he's already probably our best defenseman, and he's played 0 games. So no pressure, Mo. Hopefully it pans out, because I know we're pretty giddy with anticipation over here, Matt, and
couple little ditties I didn't get into yet either. Or we won't really get into, but don't forget the Elite Prospects SHL Defenseman of the Year also finished for 5th most goals and tied for 9th most points among all defensemen in the league. Rookie defenseman in the SHL. Boy amongst men. Just destroying.
My only gripe with this is was that head coach Cam Abbott on Seider. He's just unbelievable. He's got a great balance between being serious in his approach, fully mature. But I mean, it's crazy. He's not a robot. I mean, he's personable. He's fun. He's cracking jokes. He's out there balancing, being loose and goofy, and also dialing it in. I don't know, Matt. I feel like I'm at his funeral already. Let's see if he's actually funny. Let's do that. All right. We know he's going to be pretty good at hockey. Before we give Cam Abbott, benefit of the doubt, let's give him a type 5 here. I can't wait to see some interviews, see if he's actually funny.
And this is why I love our live videos, is because we do get performance art thrown in there, just making sure everybody knows. Let's all come in with a level head. It's exciting as hell, but if he has a tough couple of years, it's not a bust. That is a fantastic point. But of course, when he wins the Calder Trophy, we're still going to feel pretty good about it.
There's only one Calder Trophy, though, guys. We got to slow down.
He'll be the first 2-time Calder Trophy. All right. Mike, number 2, and I hope this is going to really put it in perspective where this list is going for everybody. I went through a lot of different titles for this list, but I think I settled on the best one here. And this will sort of define it, because we have some top level prospects coming through the system this year. Mike mentioned some guys on I-94 earlier today. This was not one of those guys, but I do
they're on their way to Chicago.
I think he's got a roster spot locked in. So where we're saying this guy's going to make the biggest difference for the Detroit Red Wings, we're talking about some some hardcore minutes this year. That's number 2, Joe Veleno, 6'1", 194-pound center. Pick number 30 out of the 2018 draft. Scored his first NHL goal last year, Mike, and 3 points in 4 games with Grand Rapids. They saw those 3 points. They're like, get him up there. He's ready. But don't forget about the 20 points, 46 games for the Malmo Redhawks. Of course, also a part of the SHL. It's just it was a productive season for a guy that is. Fish out of water. You shouldn't expect a guy just to immediately go to a completely different league and do well. And I'd say it worked out pretty well for him. And it's one of those things too. He started out slow and then finished pretty hot. So once he started getting used to things, it got even better for him.
Yeah, I think this description here, our boy Scott Wheeler just saying, Veleno not super flashy. He's not Bobby Flashley out there. He's not flashy, but skilled, right, at creating opportunities. More, at least right now, looks like he might be more of a defensive center. I know we've projected him to maybe be on some penalty kill lines, either the first or second one, especially with some recent departures of my boy Glenn Denning, Darren Helm going afloat. So that might be a really easy spot for Veleno to have a job and a lot of ice time. Because there will be penalties. So we need somebody to go out there and kill him. So again, Matt, the way this criteria, you set it up, where is this not just a prospect we're super excited about, but is it somebody who is going to have an obvious role, an obvious job? And for Veleno, pretty easy to see him being on that third line. Pretty feasible to see him killing penalties for the Red Wings this year.
Right, and that's where diehard Red Wings fans coming in, making sure we remember that Lucas Raymond does have more potential than Joe Veleno. Absolutely. This Lucas, who we're going to bring up in this list, we just figure Joe, for this upcoming season, is probably going to have more ice time when it comes down to it by the end of the year. So that's how he gets ranked number 2 because this isn't necessarily, again, everybody, just to recap, not a ranking of who's the best prospect, just top 10 Red Wings prospects to keep your eye on this year. So that's where I got to come in with the reminder because I knew this was going to be confusing. But Die Hard, nailing it. Like I said, I think this could be a quick episode. Number 3 coming in, Lucas Raymond. Now, I said part of this was we were going to break down. Well, let me get through the details. 5'10", 183 pounds. We know he was picked 4 in the 2020 draft. 6 goals, 11 assists in 30 games for London last year. And of course, Mike, getting his first opportunity to drive the Detroit roads today with Jonatan Berggren earlier today. Now, this is where it could get a little confusing because I don't necessarily think Lucas is getting into the starting role. But as you'll see, Mike, as we go down this list, most of these guys are going to be kind of iffy in regards to actually landing a role with the Red Wings this year, in October. But I think once Lucas gets that shot with the Red Wings, I think he's going to be great. But a lot of this, too, with this ranking comes into play. We're all going to be watching Lucas down in Grand Rapids, too. I think that's where most of his play is going to be this year. And I think our boy's going to knock it out of the park.
Matt, you putting him at number 3 is fun, but also a scary thought because we know he's got a lot of work to do to really round out his game, work on his defense, things like that. But when this Red Wing team is once again averaging about 2 goals a game, we're going to need a little something to put a little spice in that Red Wing soup. I don't know who's really going to score goals for this team. We got Vrana, right? We got him. We'll have Bertuzzi for like 30 games. And maybe the Fabmeister. But Matt, if we want to get some goals, I think this might be a spot where we're like, whoo! Lucas, we're going to go ahead and bite the bullet defensively and just see if you can, figure out NHL defensemen. Get out there and score some goals, kid. So this is another guy where I definitely see him having a role once we're in the bottom of the league offensively again, pending EP40 watch, Matt, as we continue to keep an eye on Vancouver.
Yeah, and I do see, if there's going to be some more trades coming up this year, you got to figure a winger like Fabry might be on the move. And where we talk about making space for these guys by the end of the season, at least, the Fabry conversation will exist for anybody that might be upset by that comment. So there's going to be a winger that's going to need to fill in for him at that point, because I'm not placing Fabry as a center on any of my lines coming up this year. And I just, once those spots need to be filled again. I think that if Lucas is having a pretty good year, if there are some injuries that are piled up, I definitely want to see him for a couple of games this year. And I think that still fits the Yzer plan, where he did say he's not going to let these guys play like 8 minutes a night. But if there's an obvious opportunity there, I would absolutely take it after the trade deadline. And that's probably for most of these guys on this list how the rest of it's going to go after my number 4 pick. And he wasn't showing up today, Mike, on anybody's list that was coming out, where Corey Proman put out his list of Red Wings prospects. Prashant Dyer played the game real quick. He just rolled out his 15 on Twitter. But Chase is not on anybody's list because he's not under 23, and that's where all those lists were starting. We're talking about Chase Pearson, Mike. Of course, with the beautiful Jurassic Park Grand Rapids Griffins jersey there, which once I did the Google image
extremely jealous of that. I would really like one of those. Hint, hint.
So this is Mike. This is a 2015 draft pick 140. Probably the most fun little detail or trivia piece from Chase Pearson's life, if I may. Grew up in Atlanta, so Mike, the Atlanta Thrashers did some good. They created Chase Pearson. He became a huge Atlanta Thrashers fan and a huge hockey fan. If you guys go do some research on Chase.
But what is the point of having a professional hockey team in Atlanta?
To make Chase Pearson.
And the owner said, if we can inspire one kid, if we can inspire one little boy, and Chase Pearson was that little boy. Look at him now, Mom. He's got a dinosaur jersey on. Woo!
So he gets the 4 spot because I do think there's a significant opportunity here for Chase. He's been in Grand Rapids for a few years. I mean, the collegiate years
Since
were
the
very
Jurassic area.
yeah.
Did I say area? I meant era, but you guys get it. All right.
Yeah. I think he has a significant opportunity here in training camp and at the start of the season to at least be on the opening night roster. I'm not penning him into the third or fourth line yet, but I mean that's where this boy fits. And when we go through all these names here, you're going to hear a lot of poundage that is a lot of times under 180. I mean, Chase he's a big boy. He's ready to go. And again, 6'2", 201 pounds. But where his game is going to be most, I guess, successful for us is going to be in those grinding areas, and that's where that big body's going to come into play. And if anybody is thinking this is something again where we're ranking Chase Pearson over some of the other names who haven't been mentioned yet, I just think Chase, since he has that opportunity to lock something in for the opening night, that he has that better opportunity to make a difference in some of these other prospects this upcoming season. So Chase, sure, isn't going to be locking up a middle six. He's not going to be locking up a top line position here, but in that fourth line, Chase could finally be making that the reason you drafted him, the reason that he's stuck around in Grand Rapids. He could finally be making that career move to the big leagues and become the Chase he always meant to be.
He's got Red Wing call up written all over him. There's nothing the Red Wings like more than a prospect that's long in the tooth. And bring that 23-year-old Pearson up here, man. He's got a little experience at center. We know we're going to be at the bottom of the league at scoring goals and probably winning faceoffs. So Pearson, get out there, you big 6'2", 200-pound hunk, you.
And if there's any year that it was supposed to be his opportunity, I do like this little ditty too of his little trivia as we move along here. 22 points in 28 games for Grand Rapids. Also 22 points in 59 games in 2019-2020. So clearly Chase did take a huge step forward. And I think if anything that he needs to get that look. This might be like that last ditch effort, that last chance to see what we can get out of Chase. But
yeah. Do you think he'll request to only play 22 NHL games so he can get 22 points again?
Yeah.
Point a night, baby. Give me that 5-year mortgage contract. Woo! Man, this guy, I think, is probably the most fun, realistic name in your top 5. And I'm not counting Seider. That's gonna. I don't even know how we can still call him a prospect the way we've put so many hopes and dreams into this guy.
He hasn't played a game yet, so
he's played 0 NHL games, none. But he's already the best player since Nicholas Lidstrom. But man, at number 5, as far as realistic call-ups who are gonna have a job because they've been sizzling, in the SHL. Matt, it's your boy, holla, Jonatan Berggren. Matt, the people are in Detroit. You know, we've been in the wake of Hurricane Ida. And the moisture's not going away anytime soon with all the salivating we have over this guy. I hope you've got flood insurance, Matt. We got the metrics here, right? The 45 and 49 games in the SHL, his contributions in the playoffs over there, and this is the kind of prospect I think Red Wings fans really like because he's got the stick handling ability, right? He's got that talent with the puck. But Matt, what made you put him on this 5? How did he crack above the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10s?
Well, I think for me, this is something. If you take a look at how like Scott Wheeler defined him, Corey Pronman too, both looking at a highly skilled playmaker here. But this is another one where he makes the top 5 because I think out of the 5 guys that we have mentioned have the best, maybe the best chances of actually wearing a Red Wing jersey this year. Again, a lot of things have to come into play. I think Berggren for me just is at number 5 and not number 3 because I think the excitement level or the skill is going to be a little bit higher for Lucas Raymond than it is Jonatan Berggren. And I think there's a lot there for Berggren, but a lot of the things that people are iffy on are, skating, physicality, and it's because he's playing in a smaller league like the SHL, and he's been very successful over there. But that's where he gets ranked at number 5. But instead of number 4, number 3, I just think the chances of Chase Pearson getting ice time over Berggren, again, the roles would be different, but the ice time, the effect that those two names are going to have on the upcoming season, I think there's more opportunity for Chase than there is for Berggren. I think he's pretty solid in Grand Rapids at the start of the season, unless he really blows our socks off in training camp. But that, again, isn't even a slight to Berggren, because I still expect to see him by the end of the year. I still expect to see that wing wheel on his chest. It's just not something I expect to see right at the start of the year. So that's how he fits in the top 5, is that I do expect to see him there, but just don't have the same excitement level I do for Lucas Raymond, even though you and I have been touting him since, the beginning of last season, because we had nothing else to talk about. I love the guy, but I try to come in, if we're going to be timid with Moritz Seider and keep mentioning he hasn't played a game yet, then I really got to pull it back with Berggren, because he's really fun to watch in the SHL in Frölunda. But our Berggren wasn't playing for Frölunda. What the hell am I saying?
You're on a roll, man. Sounds good.
I know. But yeah, to go back to Scott Wheeler's thoughts on him, talent level with the puck is undeniable. He can extend the play. He will create space in offense when others would wave the white flag. And he does mention that even though the game is less physical, and that's the transition Berggren needs to make, he does have a stocky build. So he hasn't necessarily used it yet, is Scott Wheeler's, I guess, assessment. But it's there. So 5'11", 183 pounds. If he needs to use the body to make plays, he should learn how to do that. And that's where that playing time in Grand Rapids is going to come, and maybe push him up into the main club. All right. So, Mike, I this is really confusing the way I wanted to set this up, but I figured these top 5 guys weren't really a surprise for anybody. That sounds right. So now we're going to go into the honorable mentions and then go through 6 through 10.
All right, we're going to Tarantino this shit. So we're going to do 1 to 5 and then some middle stuff. And then we're going to finish out the list again. So
real quick, for anybody that is
hopefully John Travolta is still alive at the end, but go ahead.
Trying to fantasy book 6 through 10, it's not going to feature any of these 5 guys.
Damn it.
Now,
spoiler alert.
Start from the right side because of where my notes are listed out here. Kirill Tuchayev, we talked about him a couple of weeks ago because he did sign that contract to be with the Grand Rapids Griffins. Now, interesting enough, Mike, we talked about these guys who are on our top 10 list all have an entry-level contract signed with the Detroit Red Wings. So Kirill doesn't necessarily have that. He is signed with the Grand Rapids Griffins, so that's where he gets this honorable mention nod. I think for this, you got to go back. There's 2 reasons he's on this list. One is the 114 points he did in 2017-18, which was near record-breaking for Yekaterinburg in Russia for the U18 league. The other reason he's this far down on the list is because he's 5'9", 146 pounds, Mike. So this is just going to be a name you want to keep an eye on for the rest of the year. Not really going to sniff the league. Not going to. I would expect not going to even get a ton of ice time in Grand Rapids, but he's going to get a lot of opportunity to learn.
No, I think he only makes it if he starts drinking some of that Grand Rapids beer. We got to beef you out, bud.
Robert Master Simone is next on this list, and I got to run through these guys a little bit quicker. Center and left wing, labeled as a work ethic guy. He makes plays with skill, but can't create separation with speed. Mike, sound like Henrik Zetterberg, maybe? Just throwing that one out there.
I just don't want him to make it to the NHL because I feel bad for the poor guy who has to stitch all the lettering on the back of that jersey. It's a lot of letters.
Took a lot of work to put this graphic together.
Right.
Master Simone and Chuchayev right next to each other. Next one, Elmer Soderblom, 6'8", 238-pound Elmer Soderblom. We all love him. He actually made it to number 9 on Pronman's list of the top. I forget how many names he had on there, like 25 names on his list. Number 9 in the Red Wings prospect pool, according to Corey Pronman. Probably, like at the very best, would finish out this year in the SHL. If he lands some ice time and just blows everybody's socks off, then he might land in Grand Rapids before the Grand Rapids season ends.
I got to say, this is probably one of the most exciting prospects in Detroit sports history. I know he's not Mo Seider, but Matt, there's something about the giant man. Whether you're talking about Giant Gonzalez, whether you're talking about Boban Marjanovic. Matt, if 6'8" Elmer Soderblom can make it to the Red Wings, that will be must-see television because everybody loves a giant. And Matt, if this guy can just figure out skating just a little bit, I know his skating, it's going to look like, that one Ent who had his head lit on fire trying to, get over to the fresh water before he, burned to death. But hopefully Elmer can figure it out Ent style and stop Soderman. So I'm really pulling for this guy. Please make it. And again, Matt, he's in our honorable mentions because the likelihood of him playing for the Red Wings this season, incredibly low, but would be incredibly exciting. And he's gigantic, so maybe.
I will say he will not play for the Red Wings this year, next year, very small chance the year after that. I'm just saying that this guy has a chance at sniffing Grand Rapids if they can lock up a contract and move him over after the SHL season. Same story for Niederbach. He struggled in the SHL trying to keep up with pace last year, so it would have to be something where he really turns over a new leaf. And then Albin Grieva, who is a relentless forechecker, has the nickname of the T-Rex. He has been playing with Grand Rapids as well. I like this. His name is T-Rex because he's at the top of the food chain and eats everything. That's from his coach a couple of years ago.
Oh, well, at least that was where he had, he measured out at the combine with short arms or something. So I'm glad that it's because he eats everything. I'm on board with that. I like it.
But yeah, for all these guys, and I think I'll mention again the 6 through 10, even for the 1 through 5. None of this meant that they were definitely playing for the Detroit Red Wings. It's just so there was going to be the most amount of action happening in the mitten. So you could be doing some action in Grand Rapids, and it was going to be reasonably, making a difference, as opposed to just saying, yes, we love Sebastian Cossa and his potential, but he's not going to be sniffing Grand Rapids or Detroit this year. So that's where he misses the list. All right. Feel like I got to keep saying that. I'm apparently really self-conscious about this list and what it actually meant. All right. Number 6, Mike, on the list as we continue to roll down. This one is all about getting super lucky because he's proven himself in the SHL. He's got that ELC sign, the entry-level contract. This, Mike, he did so well in the SHL. Screw it. Let's get him in there. This is sort of like the Danny DeKeyser play where he just goes straight into some real opportunities like DeKeyser did with the Red Wings. But we're talking 6 foot, 168 pounds, Albert Johansson. I think the excitement level for Albert right now is a lot higher than you would expect for a 60th pick in the NHL draft. Usually that doesn't happen, but we're all solidly excited because as Sean Horkoff, our director of player development, said, he's an elite skater, good offensive ability, good brain for the game. He just needs to put on some strength. And what he means is, again,
beef.
6 foot, 168 pounds. We're going to talk about some pretty tiny guys on this list. And we already went over like Kirill Tutayev, who's 140 pounds right now. So these guys do need to put on some beef. But this is probably the most exciting defensive prospect who, I don't know how I want to put this. Maybe just isn't named Moritz Seider in our prospect pool. So where everything needs to come together here, it also comes into play that he's a left side defenseman. And when you take a look at some of our trade opportunities, Mike, you're talking about trading away 3 of our left side defensemen possibly at the trade deadline. So you're going to have to fill out this roster somehow. And here's my hope is that we're going to go to the side of let's do something exciting. Maybe the SHL season is over for him. So he's headed on over. And instead of sending him to Grand Rapids, or maybe he's already done a stint in Grand Rapids. Let's give him a couple games in Detroit. That's how that happens. We've seen it happen before. I don't expect him to be thrown into this lineup anytime soon.
No,
but
I don't either.
After that trade deadline, if he has made his way over to the States, that is where that opportunity happens if we're moving a couple of these left side defensemen. Nick Leddy, Danny DeKeyser, Mark Stahl. So a lot of them have the opportunity to move. There could be some trade conversation, even though we couldn't get rid of Mark Stahl last year. I think there's still an opportunity there. There's a much more affordable contract if he looks well, looks like he's playing well again with Troy Stetcher. So look out for that left side to have to be filled after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I'll say one thing in Albert's case to get him called up quicker, Matt. Is he is 168 pounds, but in Detroit, we are known for our square deep dish pizzas and conies. So if we get him any closer to the well of cheese and carbs, maybe we could finally get him up to playing weight. And fun fact, at 6 foot, 168, he's only 12 more pounds. 12 more pounds, and he'll weigh just as much as Orange Cassidy. Incredible. Number 7, Matt, you got another defenseman here. Our boy Jared, is it McIsaac?
Yep.
All right. 21
Just
years
like
old.
Our old elementary school principal.
I remember Mr. McIsaac. This is probably his kid.
Yep.
He's number 36 pick, 2018. 6'1", $196. This guy's got a little beef on him. I like him. He's got Orange Cassidy plus 16. I like it a lot. That should be the bar for getting up to playing weight for the NHL. But yeah, he had a cup of coffee in Grand Rapids, man. He got him at 10 games, 2 assists, and he's had some boo-boos. So we haven't quite seen him at full capacity here. But yeah, he's not quite 23, which is when the Red Wings like to drop their prospects. But Matt, at 21, you see this as a pretty good likelihood.
Yeah, and you'll see this too, maybe with number 8 and number 10, also left side defenseman. But he's got the beef on him. This is something where every reason that they drafted McIsaac, if it seems like it's coming together in Grand Rapids, throw the kid with some beef out there. Give him a shot, because things have not been going his way with those couple of season-ending injuries. Of course, the last one was after he played only 1 game. So I feel like this would be just a feel-good story for Detroit Red Wings fans, but ultimately it comes down to the guy who's actually got the size, and that's how he gets number 7 on here. And it just feels like he's been in the system. He's been, he has had a short stint with Grand Rapids, and we're talking about guys who have their ELC signed. So that's where that opportunity comes in. But we're also talking about a guy who rarely misreads odd man rushes, rarely bites on fakes. He moves the puck clean, and he's got a hard wrister. And I think with all of those things combined, this is something where if the tools start to come together, if all that time sitting was used properly, you might be able to see a guy who looks great in Grand Rapids if they give him the ice time. So that's where you elevate him. Again, another huge opportunity at the trade deadline with 3 left side defensemen for Detroit could be headed out. It's got to be filled in somehow.
I think also with his role being a defensive defenseman, right? And if the Red Wings finally, if they bite the bullet a little bit and put out some more guys who, I'm looking at you, Lucas Raymond, need to work on their defense a little bit, but they're out there for goal scoring. So to kind of help offset, that imbalance, maybe that's where McIsaac can come out, and help shut it down defensively and let Lucas cook. Let him cook.
Now, this is the one I'm ready to get the comments over the next few days of,
I'm going to comment right now.
He's only 19.
Yeah.
But he played great last year for Grand Rapids. And everybody kept throwing out there, you know what? For a teenager, he's incredibly mature, despite the fact that the thumbnail I created here for Donovan, before I say his last name, that's him fighting. But, Donovan Zabrango, number 8, 19-year-old kid. I got no problem putting him on this list because he was they liked him so much. He was the first guy to sign his ELC out of the 2020 draft. As they put it, Ben Simon, the Griffins coach last year, they threw him into the fire a little bit, but he did a really good job and learned from his mistakes, and he's very teachable and willing to learn. I think for the Detroit Red Wings right now and looking for guys that, might get that opportunity. And we're talking about those short stints at the end of the season. I think that would turn into something where this is a reward for Zabrango. If he continues to come in with that great attitude, And, as he put it, I'm this old school defenseman with a little bit of new school. I like this. I'm pretty tough, gritty kind of guy. I add offense. I got a little bit of old age hockey in me, and a new era offensive defenseman. And he really likes the skates on himself too. He fancies himself a pretty fast skater. So I like the kid's confidence, and I like that his coaches walk away and say, holy crap, this kid only wants to learn and do better. So if anything, yeah, he lands number 8 on this list, because I think we got to pay attention to where his numbers are falling in Grand Rapids all year. Because again, we're gonna need. I'm hoping we're landing maybe some late round draft picks, but we're gonna need to fill out that left side. And there's another left side defenseman that if he plays well enough, he continues to get these high grades from the coaching staff. I think absolutely they'd love to reward him with that ice time in Detroit. Maybe for a couple of games, maybe to do a little Giovanni Smith stint here or there. But yeah, definitely an opportunity for a guy that the coaches love.
Yeah, I think it's time to fill those comments with Matt's full of nonsense. But, teach their own. But Matt, maybe he'll continue to impress. Maybe he'll continue to have that Icarus, start to his career here, flying up near the sun. Who knows? But we got another defenseman, Matt. I think we're seeing a bit of a trend here.
Right side defenseman this time.
That's right. Seth Barton, 6'2", $185. So 6'2", and then Orange Cassidy plus 5 pounds. Matt, 81st pick in 2018. Always a good start when your resume includes when you were drafted and your shape. But Barton, third rounder, and as you notated here, he's been ascending. He's climbing those ranks, Matt. The Trail Smoke Eaters of the British Columbia Hockey League. For all you BCHL fans out there, you already knew. And then, at the UMass Lowell Redhawks of the NCAA's Hockey East Conference. For you guys watching ESPN 15. Seth Barton, Matt, he's been getting better and better. As you mentioned here, he's been adding some muscle. So he's stayed away from those square Detroit pizzas. He's stayed away from that Grand Rapids sweet bread-like elixir known as the Grand Rapids beer. Man, he's been adding muscle. Grand Rapids, not a lot of point action, but that's not what we're looking for him. Matt, where do we see Seth Barton? You got him at number 9.
Yeah, it's a guy that he played, bottom pairing minutes and still kept turning out like successful stints wherever he's landing. And I mean that, the 1 assist in 4 games played for Grand Rapids, not a lot of ice time there, but he still took advantage of it. And Corey Prodman thrown out there that this is a cat who skates well and has some offensive touch. So while we're continuing to load up these defensemen, I like the idea of finding a guy that over one season is adding 10 pounds of muscle. So these numbers that we're basing him off of, 6'2", 185 pounds, is before he's gotten the weigh in before this season even started. But he's been given the assignment to continue to bulk up so that he can fit into the defenseman that the Red Wings want, or maybe the Griffins want for now. And he's following along those lines and doing it. And I'm a huge fan of a guy that can take advantage of little ice time and try to show off like he did in Grand Rapids. Listen to the coaches, and then if you're going to be the guy that is coachable and goes along the lines of strategy that your team needs you to follow to make sure there's success for you and the team, the only thing I need to know after that is, can you skate? And this is where he's top. That's his top grade. As a prospect are those skates. So I'm all about Seth Barton right now. I'm all about an opportunity for him to just kind of sneak in there by the end of the season. And like I said, it's not something where I expect him to one day be a difference maker for the Detroit Red Wings. But I think if he could land a pretty successful first half of the season for Grand Rapids, and some injuries, inevitably are going to happen, they're going to fill out this team somehow. I think Seth might have an opportunity here, especially with the experience he's coming in from the collegiate level with some success. And then, like I said, if he's just going to continue to follow along with what the coaches say, this is another guy who could just get that reward by the end of the season, which, Mike, unless you have anything to add, brings us to number 10.
Number 10.
Where this is where I struggled the most, because it was number 10 And then my last guy on my honorable mentions, or I should say the first guy on our honorable mentions list, last guy we went over, Albin Grieva, and our number 10, Emil Viro. I put Viro on there because I'm a bigger fan of him, I would say. Turned in a hell of a finish season this past year. And for me, this is another one where he has to have another great year and land himself in Grand Rapids. I think that's ultimately where this goes particularly well for him. Same thing for Seth Barton. I think you're keeping an eye on him in Grand Rapids. Same thing for Jonatan Berggren. You're probably watching him in Grand Rapids all year. But Viro, for him, it's about making that transition. And as a 6 foot, 171 pound defenseman, this is going to be all about him figuring in all the success he had helping win a bronze medal at the World Juniors, where he did get 2 assists, and then a pretty solid 14 points in 53 games for Ligas. He's one of the top performing defensemen in that league for his age range. And then like we threw in there, as I put in the notes, he's already committed to making sure that he's at training camp. So this is something for him. In his last interview, he has already told himself he's making this team. Now, it's cute and it's nice, and I like the confidence. But that's where the success comes for Emil Viro. I think the fact that he gets interviewed by the Detroit Red Wings it was like Carly Johnston or something when he signed his ELC, and that's where he makes that the far-fetched comment of course I'm making this team. I've no doubt in my mind. But I that confidence for me goes miles and miles, and I fully expect him to make a huge impact in Grand Rapids if that's where they want to place him for the year. But this is another left side defenseman where when those opportunities come, and I'm probably talking here, if you go through our list here, Mike, our 6 through 10, they're all defensemen. 4 of them of the 5 are all left side defensemen, and somebody may very well stand out by the end of the season and land that opportunity once we move some of those left side defensemen at the trade deadline or whenever they do move. But those opportunities may come for Emil. I think if I were to grade out Emil Viro, Seth Barton, and Jonatan Berggren as like chances of being a Red Wing this upcoming season, I mean, it's slim to none. Like it's very small. But I think, that measuring it against some of the other guys we mentioned in our honorable mentions, it's higher than them. But then you go through the numbers, 1 through 5. I think, what should I do? Should I put like a 10% on Emil? Probably a 10% on Seth and Sebrango. Maybe less, like a 5% chance on those guys. Jared McIsaac plays pretty well. He's got the age. He's got the size. I think maybe like a 25%. A lot of things have to go well for Albert too, so another 25% that he's making it. And then when you jump back up and go 1 through 5, you could probably start, in the 50% range and kind of move up from there with the 100% for Joe Veleno and Moritz Seider.
Yeah, the percentages are kind of tough, right? But I think with Emil, this is if you want to say who is the CM Punk of the Red Wing prospects, I'm going to give it to Emil Viro because too many of these guys are, gee golly shucks, I'm going to try as hard as I can and work on honing my skills and eventually make it. But this guy's coming out hot, best in the world. That's what he's going to go with here, Matt. He's putting that pressure on himself. He's putting that kind of pressure on his teammates. Like, you know what, man, I'm gunning for it. I'm not going to be some anonymous dude. I'm going to Detroit. I'm going to be playing defense for the Red Wings. I'm playing for Steve. I'm going to see Yzerman. I'm going to be right by his office. I'm going to say hi to him once in a while. Man, I love this attitude. I hope he actually does make it. I know it might be a little far-fetched, right? We still got to see a little bit more out of him, but I'm going to like that kind of attitude. And we've talked so much about letting hockey players kind of show their personality a little bit, like this alleged humor from Mo Seider. I'm very excited to see his tight 5 in his first interviews, at the major league level here, Matt. But But yeah, I think that 1 and 10, if we're going to open it and close it, we're going to bookend it with a couple guys with personality, a couple defensemen, because we know the Red Wings have not been able to draft a whole ton of, offensive skill guys at the top because of where our positioning's been. So, again, to kind of round this discussion out, we're bringing in defensemen because that's kind of what we've drafted. So those are where all our best prospects are, and that's the spot where we have some surplus, so we can make trades of guys in the NHL and call these guys up and hopefully get to some point where we can bring in some guys who can score. But I think this is a great way to bookend it. Mo Seider, Mr. Comedy, and then Emil Vero met Mr. Chicago himself, Mr. Former Money in the Bank, met the best in the world. Emil, we're pulling for you, bud.
Yeah, and what's funny too is maybe by next year we'll have Shai Buim on this list. We'll have Wallander. Hopefully Simon Edmondson is sniffing this list too. All defensemen again that we could be adding to this list as soon as next year. But I think right now, as you take a look, if you go to like Cap Friendly and take a look at these guys that actually have the contracts locked up, I mean, maybe all of the guys that do have an ELC signed, do they all track to be top 6, top 4, top 6 forwards, top 4 defensemen? Not necessarily, but I think these are the guys that are closer to making an NHL team than some of the other guys we're gonna have to wait for. I mean, we dubbed Simon Edmondson to be the unicorn of this past draft because he's got so many different skills that nobody else has had. You just can't compare him to anybody. And you want to give that a shot. That's pretty much the same kind of spirit we got from Moritz Seider. And you want to see if he'll actually turn everything around and get that, you talk about getting the basics ready to go and you morph it or mutate it into these unicorn-like skills that nobody else has. And then you get a Moritz Seider. So that's what we're hoping for with Simon. And sure, maybe next year he'll be on this list. We're not saying you ignore the guy for the year, but for all these guys that do have their contracts, they are going to be getting their fair shot in Grand Rapids if they play well. And you guys keep an eye on them in Grand Rapids. Could very well need these roster spots filled out. And like Mike mentioned too, with the bottom 10 being mostly or the bottom 6 being mostly defensemen, bottom 5, Jesus. That's where our opportunities to move guys are. I don't know how many forwards we're going to be moving with who's on our team right now. And I mentioned Robbie Fabry and like immediately had to put asterisks all around that. But outside of Fabry, I've everybody feels like they have a pretty good spot on this team. Not a lot of movement for that side, but defensively, if those guys aren't moving, you're going to need to fill out this roster at the end of the season somehow. And while we do have a lot of space for it, in our last episode, we went over the likes of Wyatt Newpower. This is where it comes down to who's got the attitude, who's coachable, who's going to earn that. And maybe it's less of like earning it through production. And it's more like where the Sabrangos and the Seth Bartons are just knocking the coach's socks off right now, based on their own words. Is that where they just get that shot and they get that extra time in Detroit over somebody else? But, we'll see how everything shakes out. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. This was, Mike, when you have to explain a joke over and over, and you tell yourself maybe that wasn't the best joke. I hope that everything made sense with this list, and my explaining it was just my own insecurity.
We get it. You just wanted John Travolta to be alive at the end. We're all on board.
All right, everybody, check us out at BOD Hockey on Twitter to follow along with all the conversations. We should do this real quick. We did 10, Emil Vero, 9, Seth Barton, 8, Donovan Sabrango, 7, Jared McIsaac, 6, Albert Johansson, 5, Jonatan Berggren, 4, Chase Pearson, 3, Lucas Raymond, 2, Joe Veleno, and of course, number 1, our boy, Moritz Seider. All right, thank you for everybody for tuning in. That was a little mixed up there at the end, and hope y'all have a good one.